Welcome to the weekly Extra Point Live. I'm your host, Moe Khan. With me, as always, is the dazed and confused one, Patrick Mancini.
Thank you, Mo.
And Rehan Sarwar.
Thank you, Mo.
Sorry, I had to. Sorry. And Rehan Sarwar, here we go. All right, with us, as always, is the DD action here, and we had some great games throughout the weekend. The first game that we'll talk about, Cowboys eking win over X-Men, as the X-Men went for the 2-point convert to win this game. JP, I'll start with you. Do you agree with the decision by the X-Men to go for the 2-point convert?
Yeah, I think you have to agree with it. I don't think you can question a team's ability to go for the win. They really wanted that win. It was a tough game against a very good opponent. I think tying the Cowboys wouldn't really have done much for them. So to go for the win was important for them. It didn't work out. Things don't always work out, but at the end, I think you'll be rewarded in the future when you take shots like that and take chances to win games. At the end of the day, they'll be rewarded, and I think it was a pretty good call on their part.
Ray, between you and I, looking at this game right now, if you were the X-Men, would you agree with that assessment? Hey, let's go for the 2 points. Maybe we win this game, and this 2 points will help us propel us over the X-Men for maybe a position, if not another team down the road.
You know what? It really depends. It depends on the quarterback and his offense. I mean, if the offense feels like they're confident that they've been doing good all game long, you know, some people have that ability where they want to win and they want the ball in their hands. So, would I do it personally? No. I think you have to go with. I prefer to go with a safe plays, but I think some quarterbacks that feel the need to to drive their teams over the top, so they went for the win. But you know what? Like Jake said, you have to applaud that. I think the guy has, they had the ability to say, we're going to go for it, we're going to try to win it all. Unfortunately, as JP said, they fell short by 2 points, but honestly,
by a single point.
By a single point, but I mean, it could have been like 2-point convert. But regardless, I do applaud them. I think it takes a lot of guts to even call that late in the game when you could be going for the tie, but usually you try to go for the win. So it just didn't go in their favor.
It was a high-scoring game as well. I mean, both teams scored points in the 30s, so I think obviously the offense had confidence in themselves that they could win the game, so they took a shot.
You know what it is, guys? When it comes down to it, for Div D especially, they're going to have to get these wins because looking at it right now, it's sort of becoming more realistic now on which teams will make it to the playoffs. But of course, there's still 6 weeks to play. Week 5, a reminder for those out there, Week 5, you have to keep you guys eligible. So that's why it's important that you guys win these games and don't have to bring in ringers, so to speak.
And it's both teams that are high up in the standings. Neither of these teams are really worried about not making the playoffs. And you expect both these teams to make the playoffs. And one of them wanted to go for a win and try and get themselves higher in the standings. I don't think they really lose anything from this.
A very, very Bill Belichick-like decision here. All right, game number 2, headline number 2 of detailed headlines over here. Monsters, Tennessee went over Africa. Is this a sign of that they have a good defense, or the fact that the Monsters were inept on the offense, JP?
I think the Monsters did play good defense. I spoke to Mo Khan, captain of the Monsters, after the game. He really felt that his defense stepped up and won the game for them. He said they struggled offensively. They had the return of Andrew Funamoto at quarterback, back for the first time this season. And he was a little bit rusty. You could tell the offense wasn't working the way he would have liked it to. But their defense won the game for them, and they've been doing that all season so far. I mean, no one expected them to be 3-1 so far. I think we're used to them getting off to slow starts and slowly getting better throughout the season. But they seem to have found ways to win right now, whether it's their defense coming up with big plays for them or their offense in the previous week coming up with a play that they need. They found ways to win. I think the Monsters are starting to show that they're actually a fairly good team in this league.
Ray Star, we're looking at this right now. Are you impressed by the defense of the Monsters? Because it's very tough to place a goose egg on your opponent, especially in FPF where points is the trademark of an FPF game. Why are you surprised by this outcome?
I'm not. I think Monsters team, they have been coming as of late, even last winter season. So, it was tough because we mentioned they had a few injuries to battle with the quarterback not being there. So
he was away. He was not here for the first 3 weeks. He was out of the country. So
okay. Well, regardless, his absence. So I'm sure it did not help the team. But as JP said, they found ways to win. And looking at them now, 3-1. It's a very impressive record, even in Division D where teams are still very good. Afro is a team that has played in FPF before, and they also have that experience. So I think for a team like Monsters to go in there and show them, that they're top dog, that they're willing to, play that defensive towel game where Afro will be frustrated and hold them basically with virtually no points. So I think it's good to have a team like Monsters, a good classic story that, they grind it out every week for a couple of seasons now, and I think now it's starting to show that they're willing to take that next step.
And Africa is a team that really tends to be inconsistent. One week you'll get a great performance out of them. I mean, last season in the playoffs in the winter, they came up with a great game against the Family, and it was an overtime game. when no one expected them to even keep it close. And then you have games like this where they can't seem to score points against a team that you would consider to be weaker than the family. So it's kind of confusing to see a team like this. You just don't know where they stand or how they're going to perform each week.
From what I've seen, they take a lot of risks. They thrive on intensity, they thrive on adrenaline, but sometimes they take too many risks. And as Jake said, that can cause a lot of inconsistency.
All right, time to go to fact or fiction of the week. And we have one question for fact or fiction, which these two guys will answer the question. The question is, does the Patrick logo remind you of the Ralph Lauren polo logo? Fact or fiction? I'll start with you, JP.
I'm going to go with fiction. I understand where you're coming with from with this question, but I'm going to say no. I think Ralph Lauren doesn't quite fit the football idea. That
The outline of the logo, it's a white.
I know what you're saying. I understand. I'm saying fiction.
All right.
Fiction. I agree with JP.
It's fact.
It's fiction.
You asked the question. You don't answer the question.
I agree. But where are you trying to go with it? Trying to create some sort of a stir here, some excitement. But no, I don't think it was like Ralph Lauren logo.
Definitely fiction.
All right, then. On to the detailed headlines and storylines for this week. And we have two storylines to look at. Now, the first question I have is an FPF-related question here. Should the FPF change the rules? So if a team has a better record than, say, a division winner, should they be ranked higher than them come playoff time? And we have a few situations like that so far in Div D. I'll go with you, JP. Do you think that should happen, where a team that might not win its division might finish with a better record than the champion?
Absolutely. I think especially in this league, because the divisions don't stay the same every single year. I understand the point of having the divisions. You want to separate the teams into some sort of category. I understand the idea that if you win your division, you should be at the top. Absolutely, you should make the playoffs. That's not a question. You should get into the playoffs. But if you have a team that wins their division at 3-7, like we had last year in the winter.
Love Cows
won the division. All three teams were 3-7 to end the season. It was a three-way tie. Somebody ends up getting the second seed in the playoffs.
And the best part is that two of them actually played in the conference finals.
Yeah, exactly. So it's unbelievable that you could have this, especially in the league where the divisions don't stay the same. So I think that if you should change the rule, and the team that finishes second or third in the division but has a much higher record than the team that won a division, I think you have to give them the edge in terms of the standings.
Ray, your thoughts?
I think JP has a really good point. I just don't know if I completely agree, only because I think in a league where it's hard to predict how a team will finish. So you have to change divisions. You can't have the same divisions every year. So what FPF usually does is they try to rank teams preseason and say, okay, we're trying to even it out. We'll put one thing here. And the reason why you can't change the rule is that because a team like Love Cows, because if they know they're in division and they're, let's say, I don't know, they were 3-6 and they have to win the last. If they were, let's say, 2-7 and they win the last game to make the playoffs, they know the chance is still there. Where you're right is that it gives a chance for the better teams to be there, and because they're better, they should be there. But I think from a entertaining / underdogs story / business point of view, you have to have a scenario in which a team may feel that even if at the 7th week point they're not doing so well, if they can win their division, they still have a chance to make the playoffs. And look at Love Cows. They went all the way to the finals, made a great story. Even when they came on to the press conference, was
Raymond Streer over here.
Yeah, it was fun to watch them. But I mean, you have to have that element. But I understand JP's point, because if you do that, then what you're doing also, essentially, you're taking away a team's good efforts the whole season. You're kind of putting them at the 4th or 5th spot, but it should be 2nd and 3rd. But I think, unfortunately, in the business that we're in, we're going to have to give these teams a chance where they could make the playoffs, even though they're not performing as well as the other teams.
Yeah, but would it not create a competitive imbalance where you have, for example, let's say Team A is 10-0, right? They're the first seed, and the rival division is 9-1, so they're going to theoretically be the 3 seed, if not the 4 or 5 seed, whatever the situation might be. And the other division is 4-5 and 4-6. Then that team beats that team, and then all of a sudden you have an imbalance where you have a super powerhouse, a 10-0 against a 4-6 team. Does that not work here?
No, I mean, this is why I agree with I see your point of view, and I see JP's point of view. You have a very good point in the sense that if Division A has a team that's 10-0 and 9-1, and the other team has 4-6, it should be 10-0, 9-1, and then 4-6, rather than 4-6 in the middle. So I do see that point of view, because the team that's 9-1, they worked hard to be 2nd, but they were 3rd only because the other division gets priority. I do see that, but I just think that in this kind of league, if that team is 4-6, and if they can't make the playoffs at all, that might be the only chance. So you're right. I mean, I think it can look at both ways, but I just think that you have to give certain teams who might not be that apt to get that chance to play as an underdog. Maybe they'll surprise you like the Love Cows did.
Here's an idea for you guys out there. How about this, right? Let's say a situation comes out where you have a weak team that's higher than the stronger team. How about head-to-head tiebreaker determines who gets that higher spot?
I like that idea.
Good idea.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, that's why you have Moe Khan hosting the show. All right.
Genius.
Division 2 wipeout where innovation starts.
Exactly. Let's go to the second headline. Can we safely say that we have our playoff team set? It's a matter of now positioning for both the conferences and Div D, JP.
And I'm not comfortable saying that just yet. I think the best example is Division 5 in the winter last season.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would have expected the Love Cows to make the playoffs. The next thing you know, they're winning their division and winning the entire conference. I'm not comfortable saying we know who's in the playoffs for sure and it's just a matter of standings because I don't think it's that simple. I think some teams could sneak in. There's still enough time left in the season to get into the playoffs. Let's be serious. If a team gets hot at the right time, you win 3, you win 4, you win 5 in a row, you never know. A team gets in and then they can do some damage. So I don't think you can say the teams are set in stone right now. There are definitely some teams that could come on strong towards the end of the season. I mean, after, like we said, a team that's very inconsistent, but if they do play well, they can get hot and they can play well against good teams. If they're able to do that, then you can sneak in. Plus, it also depends on the strength of your schedule, who the teams that you're playing in the back end of the season. Some teams may have had some strong teams to start the season for the first 3 or 4 games, and now they're going to face their weaker opponents at the back end of their season, and that could be the difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs.
Ray, your thoughts?
I think it's with this reason alone where I think that your previous question, about should we have that division rule or not, I think it's where it comes important because, like Jim said, right now nothing is set in stone, and I agree with JP. I think at this point, if you look at the Division D standings, I don't think you can comfortably say that this is going to be our playoff format come week 10 when we're looking at the playoff rankings. I think that right now there's a lot of things that are up in the air, and I think that's exciting. For me personally, I know that some people prefer to have a playoff matchups, but I think from our perspective, from the team's perspective, it creates an intensity where now we don't know. Like JP said, a team might win 2 or 3 games, and because of that division rule, they might be right back in the hunt. But I agree with JP. I don't think anything is set in stone right now.
All right, let's go on to our picks of the week. We have 3 games. Let's go to the first game here. It's the Battle of the X, the Park X Streets against the X-Men. JP, who do you like and what?
I'm going to go with Park X, actually. I thought this week they were going to have a letdown. They had a few guys missing. I felt like they were going to struggle, and you know what? They found a way to win. That's good. That's a good sign for them. This is a team that lost some heartbreakers in the winter. Now they seem to be back on track. So I'll take Park X, and my X factor will be Drew Satanis.
XXX.
XXX factor.
Let's go.
I'll go with Park X Street as well. I think they're a team that is definitely doing well. Like JP said, they had some tough challenges and they overcame them. And my X factor will be Nick Zermelis.
All right.
The mighty have fallen. The X-Men are picked to win divisions and win lots of games this season. They've lost 2 in a row now, and it seems like they've kind of fallen off the radar a little bit.
Well, never know. Maybe Div 5 next winter they might dominate
Maybe
again.
Professor X will kind of motivate them a bit more.
Who knows? Middle game, the
Horrible.
destroyed time bombs that look like time duds against the lockdown.
Wow, that's rough.
Ray, who do you have and who's your X factor?
Even though they had a rough outing, I'm still going to stick with the time bombs. I believe in this team. I think they're, everyone's allowed to have a thrashing here and there, but I think they have a win in them, a good comeback win, that is. I'll go with, again, the man who has to make it happen, the man who has to take the pressure on his shoulders and perform his Christopher best.
All right, then JP.
I agree. I think you can't put too much pressure on the time bombs here and say, look, they got a PD and that's the end of their season, because they played a team that's really emerging. They got beat by the Patriots, who are who are definitely emerging as the best team in this division. So I think to lose a big game like that, it happens every now and then. And Rehan is right about Chris Rivera. There's nobody else on this team that can lead them to victory. So if anyone's going to have an effect on them, it's going to be Chris Rivera. I think who's going to be embarrassed after last week's loss, and I think he'll bounce back and take this team.
And knowing him, I know he takes these things very personally.
Yeah.
I know he takes it to heart, so he's going to work that much harder. He feels that he probably let his team down. He has that competitive in him. So I do hopefully, I see him having a big game.
All right, finally, Tyrants against Monstars. JP, who do you have and who's your X factor?
I'm going to take the Tyrants. I think this is going to be a good game. I know the Monstars are not going to like me for picking against them, but
Especially Mo.
yeah, Mo hates when I pick against him. But the Tyrants have been playing extremely well. You can't question how well they've been playing. Okay, may not be undefeated. They've lost a few games, but I still have faith in them right now. And I'm going to take John Kaliotzak as quarterback for the Tyrants as my X factor.
All right, Ray.
I'll go with the Monstars. For the same reason we mentioned earlier in the show, that I think they're coming on alive. That huge defensive effort probably is going to motivate them to do even better this week. So I'll go with them, and I'll go with a good old Weapon face, FBI veteran Moe Khan as my X factor.
Who was actually JP's replacement back in Div
Oh,
5.
replacement? I don't think you ever.
You can't replace JP.
It's true.
You can replace NBA on the show.
I just became like Moe Khan. I used my own name.
Actually, Moe Khan's the only person who's never missed one White Ball. One member has missed one time or another. Mo has never. The Iron Man of the week.
I even missed my
Brett Favre
I
of the
even
West
missed my
Coast.
Concordia graduation for a while. Actually, funny story.
And your prom.
Not my problem. No. All right, so there you have it.
I
Div
didn't
D.
even know Mo graduated. To be honest.
Div D completed. As JP Mancini will have to get us our donuts afterwards. But that's for another story for another day itself. Without further ado, World Cup predictions now. South Africa is about to start this week. Who's your pick very quickly?
To go all the way?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm gonna go with Germany.
All right, JP.
I was going to pick Cote d'Ivoire until the injury to Didier Drogba, but now I will go with. I'm going to go with Argentina.
I was thinking like North Korea, Slovenia, but that's not going to happen. So I'll go with England. Cameraman Eddie, who do you have going to the World Cup? Is it Egypt? No. Is it Algeria, the team that defeated Egypt?
They're in it.
No, you can wave the camera. No, if you. Okay, yes, taking Algeria. Okay, so there you have it. Algeria is
Eddie's
who,
taking
and
Algeria.
he's taking Algeria.
And of course, we know our beloved president is taking Spain.
Spain, of course, even though he's Italian. So go figure, right? Actually, Eddie's pick is Slovenia, so there you have it. So without further ado, the magic words, please.
Well, that is it from us here at the Weekly Extra Point Live. We'll see you next week, but until then,
Good night, Cape Town, South Africa, which is one of the sites for the World Cup this year.
looking forward to it Friday, my friend.
Right, that's right.
Cancel war, cancel White Ball,
Cancel
everything.
prayers.
Never stop.
Watch me not stop though.